What is up, everybody? Welcome back once again to Hot Toys Hotline. As always, if you're new here, please consider dropping a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification icon so you can stay up to date with all of my most recent content and live streams every Tuesday at 7 p.m. EST. Guys, it's been about a month since I've uploaded a video on the channel. I do apologize for the delay. It's just been a really busy month for me. You guys know, though, I have been keeping up with the live streams every week, so I really appreciate you guys who have been tuning in and or watching the replays. I very much appreciate it. But we're going to get right into it, guys. First off, I want to give a huge shout out to Kit Chen over at 16kit, as always, for the speedy and very carefully packed delivery. Use code HOTLINE for $10 off of your order. It is a one-time use only code. As you can see, though, guys, in front of me, I have a 1/6 scale third-party figure review. This is the Last Father by Toys Era. This is actually Joel from the Last of Us HBO TV show, not the video game, not to be confused, but as you can see Pedro Pascal's face there on the front. Really excited to dive in, guys, so let's get right into it. Let me take the plastic clamshell out of the packaging, and let's see how it arrives to you when it lands on your doorstep. Wow. Holy crap. As you can see, there are a ton of different accessories and little parts included with this set. But before we dive in and take a look at these accessories, I wanted to mention something very important. It was mentioned over on Facebook by Kit Chen over at 16kit that some accessories were missing from the box. As you can see in this little baggie right here, I have the gun holster and the knife sheath. These were not included from Toys Era from the factory, so Kit had to wait to get them in so he could sneak them into the packages before these were shipped out to customers. So no matter where you bought yours from, make sure you check for the box and make sure these are in there. If not, if they're missing, of course, reach out to your retailer of choice and make sure you get those taken care of. But with that being said, guys, let's pull all of the accessories out of the packaging and take a closer look at all of the details. First, we have dried beef, or beef jerky, if you will. If I get a little bit closer to the camera, you could see it's painted very basic. The sculpt is decent enough. Do I think a lot of people are going to use this? Not necessarily. You could see it's just very bland on both sides. Nothing special, but cool that it's included nonetheless. We then have a little hunting knife here. I think this looks pretty nice. The details are pretty nice. If we get closer up, you could see, sorry for the reflection, but it's a very reflective surface. It's really nicely done. It does feel like real metal. It feels pretty substantial. When I go to bend it, it kind of stays in place. So I'm convinced that this is real metal. Pretty nicely done. And this is what it looks like in the sheath. Now this may be my copy, guys. I'm not entirely sure, but you could see the magnets don't want to fully clasp together there. They are pretty thin magnets. At first I was like, maybe the magnets are too thick, but you really can't get that much thinner than that, I don't think. But you could see even if I like push it together or pull it over, it doesn't want to stay together. So I don't know, maybe Velcro would have been a little bit easier there, but not too sure about that. A little bit of a disappointing thing there, but not a huge deal to me. We have our die-cast revolver here, and as you can see, it's really nicely done. It's a nice, like, heavy die-cast metal. I'm sure you're curious about the moving parts because a lot of companies do that now. The barrel does move. It's just kind of stiff. Like, it doesn't want to do a full rotation. Again, I don't know if that's just my copy. It moves, but not a full 360, which is not a big deal because who's going to rotate it after you put it in his hand or in the holster? Speaking of the holster, let's see what it looks like in that holster. And I'd say it looks pretty nice holstered. You can see at the top there's some magnets, and they magnet together very easily once you snug it up in the holster. I think that looks pretty good, so definitely A+ on that. Here we have our two watches. If you get a little closer, as you can see, one has a cracked face on it. I think that's a pretty cool detail. And then this is the clean watch here. These feel like real metal loops here, kind of securing the band onto the wrist. Pretty nicely done, and I like the fabric wristband on it. Here's the flashlight that comes with it. As you can see, there's some nice weathering detail, especially in that handle area. You can see some paint rubbed off there, some really nice detail. A lot of work put into this accessory here. I'm pretty happy about that. If we look at that lens there in the front, I think that looks pretty convincing. It looks like a real front of a flashlight to me. Unfortunately, it doesn't like turn or anything like that inart, the Batman flashlight. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't really ever use that feature anyway, but really nicely done. These accessories are just hilarious to me. I don't know why. They're just solid die-cast metal cans. Can't forget the world famous, a childhood favorite, Stewie's Beef Stew. Or if you're more of a Puritan beef stew type of guy, you have both options here. Definitely hilarious to me. These are really nicely done, kind of for no reason. And also I want to give you a quick look at what it looks like on the top. You have your little lid there with the pull tab, and on the underside, it looks like a real can. I mean, these are really nicely done. The prints are pretty decent quality as well. Definitely the most random die-cast accessory I've ever seen, but pretty awesomely done nonetheless. Man, I was wondering... Shit. I'm starting to understand now why this box felt so heavy. You have a solid metal. I mean, this is solid, guys. Solid die-cast metal flask here. It's pretty basically sculpted, but how cool is that? I love the inclusion of die-cast metal with a lot of these parts. Toys Era, keep doing stuff like this. It just feels substantial. Did we need a die-cast metal flask? No, but we have one, and that's really cool. Yup, you guessed it. This is metal as well. It's funny, every time I see these thermos-style cups, it always reminds me of Jingle All the Way when he gets the coffee spilled on his face. Hilarious scene. This is just such a cool accessory. It's really nicely done. There's actually a bit of weathering up there on the cap, and it's solid, guys. I don't know why I keep hitting it on my hand like my hand's metal or something, but trust me when I say it, it is absolutely solid, and anyone that has this figure in hand, they can attest to that. It's an absolute missile. Here we have our shovel, and yes, you guessed it. The head of this shovel is die-cast metal, and it looks really nice. It's got like a nice patinaed look to it. Really nicely done overall. I will never, ever use it with this figure, but I've got ideas running through my head. You know, you get Ed and Sean from Shaun of the Dead from Yan Toys. This might be cool to give one of them to fight off some zombies. Now, this bolt-action rifle was actually one of the most exciting accessories for me. When I was reading the description of the figure, when I was about to pre-order it, this really just stuck out to me. You have a real leather strap, as you can see, and it sounds weird, but I smelled it. It does smell like real leather. It feels like real leather. It looks like real leather. So I'm going to say, guys, it's probably real leather. Hashtag Pleathergate. Getting closer up, though, on the stock of the gun and everything, it does look really nice. This is real wood, according to Toys Era, and I'd be inclined to believe that. It feels like a treated wood. The rest of the gun is all die-cast metal. You can see some really nice weathering all throughout those metal parts there. Just really nicely done. Again, we're all curious, does this move? It does go up and down. However, it doesn't go back. That would have been super cool. Definitely a little bit disappointing, but who cares? You're never going to do that with your figure. But at least if you want to have Joel kind of cocking that bolt back with the bolt in his hand, you can do that, which is cool. There is a bit of a scratch on the surface there on mine, as you could see. Not a huge deal, but definitely wanted to point that out. But again, really, really nicely done. We also have an AR-15 style rifle here. Surprisingly, this is not die cast. It's actually full plastic. But I will say it does look very nice. There's some nice dry brushing and weathering all throughout. You have a real piece of tape here, the duct tape there on the back of the stock. Really nicely done. I love the fabric here wrapped around the sling. Of course we have to check, guys. Can you pull the magazine out? Yes, you can. You do have a bullet there in the magazine. Really cool. Let's look down that hollow sight. Of course, there's not a hollow sight printed on there, but it does look really cool nonetheless. Next, we have this rucksack, and I want to say, guys, this is actually really nicely done. I'm very surprised how hard they went on this. This pocket here appears to be sewn shut, but this is magnetic, and you can actually look inside. There is a piece of foam in there, but of course you could take that out and fill this with your cans of stew or what have you. Just really nicely done overall. Some great details here. The straps look nice. You have this kind of camping mat here rolled up in the bottom. It does look like that comes out if you want it to, so really nicely done. Actually, one of the nicer 1/6 scale rucksack slash backpacks that I've seen. We have a very basic display base here. No nameplate actually on the front. Very surprising. Some rough scratches there and everything on the front. Doesn't surprise me too much, but very basic. It comes with a crotch grabber. You know the deal. We have our seamless forearms here. Now, these are pretty decently painted. It's not like mind-blowing paint work, but for a third-party company, I think they put in a decent amount of effort here for the most part. If we get a little closer up, you could see some kind of airbrushed in veins. Now, I will say there are some sculpted in veins here and there, but they didn't kind of airbrush every single vein. And I think that's pretty accurate because not every vein is going to show blue through your skin. You can see this one here, this kind of gun holding hand here, has a lot of vein work done on it there. Again, pretty decently done, not like absolutely mind-blowing paint work, but for a third-party figure, I think these are pretty nice. Of course, these are used when you have the tan jacket removed from Joel. It'll definitely add a lot of realism to that look for sure. And finally, guys, we have our extra hands. You saw 4 seamless arms included in the set. We have 4 extra hands here, and then 2 hands, of course, pre-installed on the figure, which we're going to take a look at right after these, I promise you. Getting closer up, as you can see, some really nice paint apps on these as well. Some vein work airbrushed in. We have that pinkish shading towards the knuckles. Just a varying depth of paint apps here that makes it look much more realistic than a lot of the flatter paint apps we've seen from some other third-party companies. Again, not like Hot Toys quality paint, but a very honest effort from Toys Era, in my opinion. Guys, thank you for sitting through all the accessories. There was a lot to go through. Now, without further ado, let's grab our Last of Us, Joel, the Last Father by Toys Era, and see what we think of the figure. Does it look like Pedro Pascal? Let's answer the ultimate question. Now, here we are, guys, with the Last Father by Toys Era. Now, as you can see, kind of having a full body shot of him here, he looks really good, guys. I'm really excited about this. I loved this show. I love Pedro Pascal, and I know a lot of people are buying this because of that head sculpt. But don't you worry, we're going to take a look at that head sculpt. Let's get a little bit closer, though. I want to take a look at the details on the clothing here. Really nicely done, Toys Era. I want to give you guys a huge round of applause for the tailoring on this figure. I think it looks pretty good for a third-party release. Overall, I'm very happy with how it looks. You have some weathering, some tears on the coat there. Of course, we got to open it up because there is a layer underneath, and that's another alternate way to display him. As you can see, you have that kind of button-down shirt there, that flannel, if you will, looking really nice stitch work. Those buttons are nicely placed, really nicely stitched, no loose stitching or anything. Just overall, I'm very happy with how this looks. You can see there is a gray undershirt there as well. You can see something pretty obvious looking at that head sculpt. I'm going to point that out when we get a little bit closer up, don't worry. You can see the 2 hands pre-installed on the figure. We have an open, relaxed hand and a shooting hand, if you will, a trigger finger hand. That doesn't surprise me, though, because we do have firearms included in this figure. You can see there's another tear there on the arm. Moving around to the back again, there's some weathering, very subtle, but it definitely shows. You can see it around the collar as well, some damage to the coat, some weathering on the shoulders. Just really liking what I'm seeing, guys. The stitching on the blue jeans here is very nicely done. They fit nice on the figure. I think the proportions are looking pretty good to Pedro Pascal. You can see they sit pretty nicely over the boots. Speaking of the boots, I think those look very good as well. I'll get even closer. Look at the scuffs there. That's very realistic, guys. If you ever owned a pair of boots for many years, you know how they get beat up before you kind of repolish them and put some brown polish or something on them. That's exactly what it would look like. So I'm pretty impressed by that attention to detail. And again, these look really nice. I really cannot complain. I'm very happy with how these turned out. Of course, we got to look at our tread and some really nice detail there, even down to like the branding on the bottom of the boots. But let me not keep you waiting any longer. Let's take a close-up look at this head sculpt here, guys. As you can see, I think it's pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with how it looks. I think they did a very good job at capturing that Pedro Pascal likeness. Is it 100% there? Not necessarily, but I think it's pretty close. I'm pretty happy with how it looks. I'm also very happy that they achieved those grays throughout his hair. That's very important for the stage of life that this character is in. I think the sculpted hair looks pretty nice as well. As we rotate it around, you could see all those grays, the sculpted in waves in his hair, that 5 o'clock shadow fading into the beard. Just really nicely done overall, guys. I'll get even closer so we can see those eyes. I think it's pretty good. I saw some people saying these were fangs there in the front. You can see they're kind of separate pieces that are kind of glued into the front, probably after the fact. But if you look at it from afar, guys, I don't really think it looks bad at all. I'm very satisfied with how this looks. I think even from the side there, it looks like Pedro. Just really nicely done. I'm glad that I went with this version. They did redo this head sculpt at first. It was looking a little rough, but I'm glad that they made some changes. I think this looks really nice. Now, I will do you the favor in a moment, and I will show you the Mandalorian head sculpt from Hot Toys, also, which is Pedro Pascal, just so we can compare the two. But one thing I want to point out before we do that, is something that some people mentioned on Facebook and other groups. You could see, I will agree, the neck is definitely not the same color as the head sculpt. Of course, you're not going to have the shirt propped open this much, or maybe you will, but I won't personally. That's a bit of a miss. That's a bit disappointing. Even from far back, you could tell this looks like a different person's neck. So maybe I'll seek out somebody who can repaint that for me. I don't know. Don't know what happened there. I guess they weren't able to get the correct color match. You can see a bit of like pinkish tones there in the middle of the neck. But again, it is a different color. Now, what I want to do too is bend this hand up. You can see the hand matches the head sculpt for the most part. So it's really just that neck. So I guess because of that rubber material, they were having trouble matching that. I don't know. Definitely a bit disappointing, but if you do have the coat kind of closed more, it does cover it up a little bit. But let me grab that Mandalorian sculpt from Hot Toys and let's compare the two. And there you are, two different takes from two different companies. Of course, we have the Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal's the Mandalorian on the right, and then we have Joel from The Last of Us on the left. Both very good takes on Pedro Pascal, in my opinion. Which one do you like more? Leave it down in the comments below, guys. I like both of them. It's kind of hard to pick. I think they kind of capture two different looks for two different characters. Both look really nice, in my opinion. But yeah, really exciting to have this figure from Toys Era. Really quickly, I'm not going to go too hard, guys, but I will go through articulation. So as you would suspect, because this is a full cloth outfit, it is very posable. As you can see, you do have a full 90 bend at the shoulders. You can push it a little further, but you can see it does droop down just a little bit, not a huge deal. Of course, you do have a double jointed elbow there. Always love to see that. While we're here, you do have a rocker ball joint in the hand. Of course, you could do a full rotation. You could rock the hand whatever way that you want. Standard for all 6-scale figures in terms of the ab crunch. Actually crunches very far. You could probably get them in a really nice sitting pose. I mentioned like sitting around a campfire earlier. Definitely could achieve that with this one. In terms of the hip articulation, it's a bit limited by the jeans. Just be careful you don't rip them, but you can get some nice posability out of it. The knees are actually ratcheted, which is really nice. If you push it, you can really get it pretty far. Definitely no complaints about that. I'm pretty happy with the body overall. It's a decent body. In terms of the boots here, you do have some nice rotation. Actually, you do get a bit of up and down. Surprisingly, these are pretty stiff boots, but there's a bit of room in there. So actually more than I expected. So pretty nice posability on this guy and a very nice looking figure, guys. I'm very pleased with how this turned out. Is it 100% perfect? No, but the accessories are nice. Overall, the figure is nice. I like the tailoring. I like the head sculpt. That neck just bothers me, and the more I look at it, it does bother me. But without further ado, guys, let's throw this guy in a couple poses and let's close out this video and I'll share my final thoughts. Toys Era, The Last Father. What do I think of it? Well, I will say, as I was doing this final posing segment here, I noticed I really didn't like these seamless forearms. It took me a lot to get the original arms off. They were very tight on there, and then when I was posing with these seamless arms, they kept popping off on me, and I pushed them in really hard. It might just be my personal copy. I'm not going to say that that's going to happen with everybody's. That was just my experience. Apart from that neck being a different color, the accessories are great. The sculpt is awesome. I really like this figure, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Take care. I'll see you next time, and I am out.